people, that's just me. Maybe you don't want, them to come to us, so July 27th, we'll do that. Just pick a time that works for everyone. Way simpler than going through email trying to correspond a time that way. Lastly, I want us to make sure to put in comms requests in advance. If you want promotional stuff, you need to have it in 8 weeks in advance. If you want to do social media recaps, that's 2 weeks in advance. Web graphic or slide is a week in advance. You need to make sure that they have your event information and date to be able to put it on the chairbacks, to be able to get words out to people. I just want us to utilize our church-wide systems of communication so we can communicate well to all of our people. Cool. Make sense? Next tip, delegate. If you are the event coordinator, do not put yourself in a position where you are unable or unavailable to make decisions the day of the event. So that means you probably can't be grilling burgers if there's 10 other things going on because you're solely focused on one item, and you need to be able to be looking at the entire event, big picture, because you are in charge. If you forget to purchase something, you are not the one to run to Walmart to go get it. You need to have a runner in place for this. So make sure to distribute roles, give them accurate timelines and what they need to accomplish, and what are their responsibilities for the day of, and what aspects of the event are they in charge of. Because during the event, you cannot be running around trying to keep the event going and figuring out details day of. I'm sure you've heard this before. I like this analogy, but events are like cake. So I'm going to show you a couple slides here. Tell me what you notice about this cake.
Colors.
Pretty flowers, pretty colors. Okay, what do you notice about this cake?
Helmets.
Clemson, Carolina, teams, helmets, exactly, totally. What about this cake?
That's not a cake.
That's a Mevo.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Blown away. Look at all the details. It's very, 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 very fun cake. There are two aspects to cake. There's the inside, and then there's the icing on top. Both are incredibly important, but one we just naturally notice more than the others. And both are very important, but the reality is nobody notices the cake inside unless it gets messed up. If you are well versed in the kitchen, baking is kind of like science. It's in order to make the cake part, it is an exact amount of measurements with exact ingredients following exact instructions. It is not super complicated to bake a cake. Those can be given out with exacting standards and clear instructions. The things that people notice, that's art. That's actually a lot more difficult to delegate. And those are the things that people notice. I think you'll see the analogy with events. If you're going to delegate well to bake a cake, give exacting standards and instructions, and they can make a pretty good cake. This is going to free you up to focus on the icing, the stuff that people actually walk away remembering the event. Does it kind of make sense? Cool. All right. Now we're getting into the event phase. This is more troubleshooting. So when it is event day, there's going to be things that change. You're going to have to come up with new plans and compromises, and there's going to be new ideas that are presented and new decisions that need to be made. And so the starting point for all this is tip number one. We kind of touched on it before, but think like a new person. Where do I go? What do I do first thing? Who should I talk to? Do I need to find out information? Do I need to register? I'm a little early. Does it feel like I'm supposed to be here? What should I do until the event starts? Where's the bathroom? As best as you can, look at everything not as yourself, but as someone walking up to the event for the first time. Tip number two, find the landmines. So what are the aspects of our event that we will need to do a plan B in case something goes wrong? What is the most likely thing to go wrong that we'll have to make a new plan for? This is Jay's idea, but to avoid landmines, his rule is anything you can take care of before the event, you must do it. The only things that you do the day of the event are things that you were not able to do, that were impossible to do before that day. a recurring issue amongst all of us and really humanity in general is you think things take less time than they actually do. So the day of the event, you know, oh, I need to do these 3 things, and all of a sudden you realize I'm not able to accomplish that, and now we have to make compromises and not do things we were planning to do simply because you did not leave yourself enough time to be able to accomplish what our plan was. Tip number 3, find the right feel. You want your people to feel comfortable. So things like having music. Find a playlist with upbeat 90s songs because everybody knows them, rather than using the radio or songs that you need to censor. Have music in different areas, not just outside or inside, but both. Make side-by-side fun. That is a great way to get to know someone. Have games. Don't do things alone. Make sure you put your people up on, hey, May the 4th, come on in to our game. I'm flipping burgers. Come help me with that. Include kids in the planning if applicable. Don't let kids be the reason why someone can't come to an event or why someone has to leave early. So have activities that they can do themselves, or at least make sure you're thinking through childcare. Think about what things people would enjoy. What would you enjoy? If it's cold, having a fire and having s'mores. People love that. You love that. If it's hot, have a big fan with big misters, or have some great seats, or swings, or whatever you think that would be a comfy, enjoyable time. If you hate bugs, like I do, call Mosquito Joe. That way I can actually be outside and not miserable, or have tiki torches or something like that. Lastly, tip number 4, have some special touches. Like we said before about the cake, people perceive quality of an event based on the icing on top. That is the only way that somebody will walk away being like, this event was amazing. It's these special touches. It can be a fine event, but if you want it to be, I'm walking away and I perceive this is great, there has to be special touches. And I have an example for you, and I hope it works.
Oh gosh.
Let me find the cursor. Oh, I'm backwards. Nobody move. There you go.
It's not funny. Lizards get overgrown and overpopulated. They make it's not one thing in your house that you want.
Okay, so this was at Oakland's 3rd birthday party. I gotta tell you, I've been to many children's birthday parties in the past. And when I come home and Megan's like, hey, how'd the party go? I was like, all right, well, we got there and we stayed a little bit and then we left after a little bit. And that's usually the level of details that I'll come away with them. But when me and Gus got home from Oakland's 3rd birthday party, there was no shortage of details that we were so excited to tell Meg and Julie. And it's because of Landon and the special planning that he had. He was led these 3-year-olds on a scavenger hunt or expedition as a Australian tour guide, and it really was just an amazing moment in time in my life. I just got to tell you that it really did make a huge impression on me because people remember special touches. They matter.
Chris said it's possible that I'm not trying hard enough as a dad.
Oh, that's mean.
That was in the middle of the way to do it. There's a chance.
It just clicked in my brain. It was like, okay, I haven't made it. He has.
I'm not at the ceiling quite. There's a chance that I don't try hard enough.
The special touches matter, and only leaders can provide them. So, plan an intentional drink to have at your event, or burgers are great. But that's not what people walk away remembering. But a made-to-order cocktail people would remember. Giving kids a present upon arrival will immediately make them love wherever they're at. So give them some bubbles or little toys or games. Give them some chalk. Have a slip and slide or a bounce house. When kids are having fun, that means parents can actually enjoy the event. So have some special touches. All right, last, post-event phase. So just what you do to close the book on this event. Have an exit strategy. So I like this truism. The event is not over until it looks like it never happened. So make sure to have a plan to clean up afterwards. If you are bringing in hay bales for Easter, don't just leave them in Barnwell. If you have extra food at an event, don't just put 90 hot dog buns in our office break room. We don't need 90 hot dog buns. Yeah, have an exit strategy. Tip number 2, document everything. In order to plan an event, there's just documents galore that you've got so many planning details that you've been working on. Make sure they're all collected together in a Google folder, and that all the people involved in the event, including your supervisor, has access to that Google folder. This is not only helpful for you to stay organized, but future you and future us as a church. Some things that you can document are just the instructions you delegated to people. That will be incredibly helpful. All the cake baking details that you delegated. Have written checklists of tasks broken down by roles. Budget, what needs to be purchased, in what quantities and from what stores. What do we already own now, so we don't need to purchase them in the future. What will the total cost of our event be? Put some deadlines for planning milestones. Put your personal notes on how the event went. What do you think we need to improve next time? Make sure to write all of that down, because future you will not remember it. Conduct informal or formal surveys to collect people's feedback after the event. So gathering this information will allow you for next time for the event that you're conducting to be even better than it was this year. So you don't want all this information to be scattered, because you actually want your brain to be able to move on to something else. And then when it comes time to do this event next year, just dust off this Google Drive folder and you've got all the information there for you. And so that way you'll be able to lead out the event, an even better event, using less effort. Don't assume that future you will remember. There's like a 1% chance that is the case. It is way more likely that you are going to be unable to remember all of those details. Don't assume some of this stuff is common sense. It probably isn't. Again, you have the curse of knowledge. Write it all down. It could only help you and help others. Lastly, know when to celebrate. So know when to pop the champagne. So revisit the first question that we asked at the very beginning of this training. Why are we doing this event? What is the goal? What are we hoping to see accomplished? If we have accomplished that, then there's reason to celebrate. No matter what went wrong, there's reason to celebrate if we accomplish what we were set out to, what we're trying to do. Share this with the rest of staff. Celebrate it at our office celebration lunches. Make sure to email out to all of your volunteers and thanking them and show them, here's how God used this event. Don't solely be focused on all the ways we need to improve on this event next time. That is very important, and it is wrong for us not to ask that question, but I believe it is equally wrong not to recognize what went really well and how God used the event and how what we were set out to accomplish through the event was done. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening.